What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have Immigrant answers the most asked questions about British life. I'm very intrigued at what the most asked questions are. Before we dive in, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, get a video a thumbs up. Also, if you like to support the channel by becoming a member, all you gotta do is hit that join button to receive your exclusive benefits. Let's dive in.
Hi everyone, it's me. Have a seat, get cozy, put your feet up. Today we are being brutally honest about the UK. So if that is going to upset you, maybe don't watch this video. I've got a hot cuppa.
You've been warned.
I painted this mug, isn't it cute? I got a hot cuppa. I've got some questions about living in the UK. So let's get into it. In case you're new here, hi, how's it going? My name is Lana and I'm a Canadian, but I live here in the UK. I've been here for 9 years.
9
Which
years?
is,
God
every time I say
dang.
that out loud, it doesn't sound real. Anywho, how about this one to start us off? What's real British weather like and how do you cope with it? I guess if we're thinking like worldwide, I'm very grateful that the UK has 4 seasons, right? Very distinct 4 seasons. Not everybody gets that and I like that.
True.
Unfortunately, the extremes are difficult.
Oh.
So I've never liked winter as a Canadian.
Same.
Never liked winter. Winter in the UK is just as bad, if not slightly worse than winter in Canada, if you can believe it. It's
Really?
so dark. It's so dark and wet and depressing.
Oof.
We're just kind of coming out of my 9th winter here. Not my favorite. I am not a fan. In Canada, we get a lot more snow, which is annoying to deal with, but I feel like there's more light. There's more brightness, typically. And the other extreme would be summertime. I was always a summertime girly, yay.
Yeah.
But not when there's no aircon, like here. So the summertime here can be really tough. I still kind of struggle. It's not as bad because I've gotten used to it, but when you've spent your whole life in air conditioning, at work, at home, everywhere, air conditioning in the summertime, you don't really conceptualize, you don't really realize how much you rely on it. So here, this flat, I love this flat, historic old flat, probably haunted, more on that later. It has been built to retain heat. So in the summertime, there will be days when I'm upstairs in the office at my desk, maybe editing a video, and I'm actively, sweat is falling off my body onto my chair. And there's been some summers when we've had a heat wave where I will get a tea towel, like a kitchen tea towel, soak it in cold water, put it around my neck and my shoulders while I'm sat working at my desk. That is the thing I've had to do. So what is real British weather like? It's something. What's the biggest...
See, I feel like I would have to be sitting at my desk. If I'm not recording, if I was just like editing her, I just have to like have 3 or 4 fans surrounding me. And like fans that can go on your desk and all just blowing on me at the same. I couldn't live summer without AC, and I hate winter. I despise winter. I hate when I'm cold. I hate being cold. I hate my bones being cold. I hate everything about it. And always like, I'm a big summer, like summertime, that's my season. Well, it's summertime's coming around here in my day. I was outside for like an hour and I said, I'm burning. I'm dying. The sun is draining me. And so while I do like summer more than winter, I've learned I might not be the summer guy that I thought I was. But thankfully, I do have air conditioning. You feel me? So I can always come in air conditioning, and no matter where I go, like store, shops, wherever I go, there's going to be air conditioning. So that is a plus during summer.
Difference between Canadians and the British.
That's a good question.
I would say, so I live in Kent. I don't know if you can see my Kent art. I live in Kent. I deal with Southerners, all right? And Northerners always love to tell me that they are very different, and that's cool. I love that for you. Southerners, I find, are fairly reserved. They're fairly, they don't want to be a bother. I think that's what it comes down to mainly. They don't want to be a bother. They don't want to be annoying to you. They want to be polite. So a bit more reserved, a bit more closed off, not in a snobbish way, which kind of was my interpretation early on. And of course there are people who are snobs, of course, but now that I've been here for so long, I don't see it in a snob way. I see it in like they really don't want to be a bother. Whereas I find
I feel that.
traditionally, stereotypically, Canadians are much more open, they're much more friendly, and it always kind of surprises me. There was a time when I went back home and I was in the queue for something, like in a shop, and this woman just started chatting to me, like, not how's the weather, kind of polite small talk that you would hear from a British person.
Yeah.
But she just started talking, like, and we were just like talking, like deep conversation with a total stranger. And I know
Really?
Northerners tell me that they do that all the time, and that's great. Here I find not so much. And it's always surprising going back to Canada. Or like there's a time my partner and I, we signed up to a gym when we were going to be in Canada, and you could get like a discounted week trial, so we did that. And there's this old boy there, and he just started chatting to us, and we had a lovely conversation. And every time it happens, I'm always just a little bit surprised. Is there a preference? I think both are nice in their own right. They're both very nice. That's the thing too, right? I guess here in the UK, I find it really hard to make connections with people and to make friends because people are a bit more reserved and a bit more standoffish. Just striking up an in-depth conversation with a stranger doesn't really happen for me. Whereas in Canada, I feel like people are just much more open to that, and it's easier to make connections with people. What are some traditional...
And I would say Canada is very similar to the US in that aspect of people you just meet I'm just meet, and they will be talking to you about their life and and I'm like, I've known you for like 5 minutes. But like people just are open and they open up, and it's that fast and it's that easy. And a lot of other countries see it as superficial, to be that right, open, that happy to meet strangers, everything at first, but that's just how it is. I would say in North America, not just Canada, but North America in general, like people will just come up to you and start talking to you, start a conversation.
British foods or dishes I should try? Is
Ooh.
everything an acceptable answer? I love trying new things. I love food as well. So trying new things and food kind of go hand in hand.
Same
I have
here.
a whole playlist on my YouTube channel of taste tests and trying British food. Recent ones that come to mind: trying English wine, trying cheap, mid, and expensive British cheese. I've
I saw
tried
that
as
video.
many different British snacks as humanly possible. There's a lot. And personally, I love the trying. I love the experience, right?
Yeah.
Of like, I don't know what this is and I'm going to try it. So there's obviously some
feel
very
that.
big, like, famous ones I think are a no-brainer. A fry-up, like an English breakfast, a Sunday roast, sausage rolls, pork pies, like Scotch egg. The really like famous stuff I think needs to come first. But then there's so many other things, like going to I love crisps and going to like the crisp aisle and just like buying stuff to try. Genuinely so much fun. And every year I get a little bit nervous that I'm like, there's nothing that I haven't tried yet. Like I've tried everything and now this experience is done for me. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I go out to a different grocery store or even my usual and I take a gander and I take a wander and it's like, oh, I've never seen this before. It never ends. And for that, I'm very grateful. So that's my advice to literally everyone. Just try. Because you never know. And realistically, try it twice. Try it twice in two separate occasions. Because sometimes the first time you have it, not a great experience. But the second time, that's the right one. When it comes to food, I am a busy person. I'm a busy person. And I have never missed a meal. I have some friends who are like, wow, it's just been such a busy day. I've forgotten to eat. Literally don't know what that's like. But some days when I'm really busy, like on a filming day, when I'm filming and I'm editing and I've got a deadline, I'm like really stuck into my work. I need to eat.
Yeah.
Period. I need to eat. But I don't want to go to the shops. I don't want to cook anything. And I also don't really want to snack just on unhealthy stuff all day. Enter today's sponsor, Y Food. For me personally, I love Y Food for lunch. On those really busy days, it's a little taste test. make sure you use my code, and there'll be a link in the description. How does the British
I
sense
will
of
say, it is fun, like that sense of like trying new foods, chips, snacks, whatever it is, trying something that you never tried before. You just don't know like what's out there that you're absolutely going to love. Like you may try 30 things, you may not like any of it, but that 31st thing that you tried may just send your taste buds to a whole different reality. Like you just got to keep going. And so I completely agree with her. Like try I don't know about try everything twice, because if I really don't like it the first time, I can't try it again. But try everything. I like that. I can get some things. I won't try no tartar. No beef tartar, steak tartar, no kind of tartars. I'll just say none will not ever try any of that. That's just me.
humor differ from North American humor?
Oh,
So I would say
I'll try to answer this if I can. I know I've never lived in the UK, but to me, just from what I've seen, you guys are a lot more like y'all like more dark humor, and y'all can say a lot more stuff like and get away with it in America that a lot of Americans would be offended by. Y'all can say in the UK, and then UK humor is more like self-deprecating, more sarcastic. Uh, More witty in a sense. Whereas US humor, I feel like, is more like in your face, more loud, more you see body language with the humor, things like that. If you think I'm wrong, please come in the comment section and correct me.
North American, we should space out or like separate. I think there's a spectrum. You've got British, Canadian, American.
Mm-hmm.
American and British, different.
Yeah.
Canada is kind of like it absorbs a lot of different cultures and a lot of
Okay.
different like characteristics of other nationalities and of other countries. So Canada is kind of like an amalgamation of British and American. I would say
Okay.
British sense of humor can be very dark, very self-deprecating, sarcastic, dry. It's hard to explain, but when you see it, you know it. Whereas I think
Facts.
Canadian humor is similar, but perhaps not as dark, not as self-deprecating or depressing, but kind of. Just not
Okay.
as severe. And then
Gotcha.
Americans, I don't know how you describe American sense of humor. If you've ever watched any of their like TV shows, comedy panel, they
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do comedy panel, but like comedy, late night shows, SNL type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not as self-deprecating.
Mm.
It's funny, obviously. Everybody's
Yeah.
funny. It's just like a different variation. How does
Exactly.
the public
Exactly.
transportation
I love how I got British. What I said about British humor was exactly what she said about British humor. So I just give myself a pat on the back. I don't watch a lot of British comedies, a lot of British sitcoms, a lot of British comedians. I watched a lot of American comedians. Obviously, growing up, a lot of American sitcoms, and so you just spot the difference now.
system work in the UK? So there's a couple of different systems. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but one big change over the last couple of years has been the transition to cashless, which is just beautiful. That was a chef kiss, if you didn't know what that was. So when I moved here in 2015, 2016, I think even 2017, I would take the bus. So I was what they would call a bus wanker. I would take the bus and back
Love that on In Betweeners. Bus Wanker. Oh, such a good show.
then for us in Kent, everyone's going to be different. It was cash only, and you needed to have as close to perfect change as you could possibly imagine. And my
Dang.
understanding was, or at least the excuse that I got from all of the bus drivers, is that they weren't really given like a float, or at least they were given a very minimal float. So you were expected to pay for your ticket, know how much it was going to be, and have close to perfect change. And I absolutely hated it. And when I moved here and I was buying my bus tickets, there'd be a queue, right? There's always a queue in the morning. Everyone's trying to get to work. And I'd have all these coins and I didn't know what the coin was just by
Mm.
sight. I would have to read each individual coin. And it's one of those things that you don't really think about until you're in that situation, because yeah, I couldn't identify the coins based on sight.
I see what you're
That should
saying.
be surprising. Why would I know the coins? You can't use them in Canada. But in those
That's a good
situations, it
point.
was just awful. Horrible. Hated it. I angered many a bus driver with poor change. Thankfully, after COVID, a lot of the buses have become cashless. I think you can still pay with cash. Like, I think
Hmm.
that's still possible. But I know at least for us here in Kent, you can buy a ticket. So I have the app on my phone. I can buy the
Mm.
ticket. I can house the ticket on my phone. I can show the bus driver my ticket. I don't have to print anything. I don't have to have perfect
That's so
change.
much
And it's
easier.
just like so much easier. When it
Yeah.
comes to the trains, I do the same thing. I buy my train ticket on my phone. I house the ticket on my phone. I scan it rather than showing it to anybody. You scan it at the barriers at the train station. So you scan it to get in, you scan it to get out. Simple. And I'm so grateful because those first few years using cash only,
Oh
terrible.
yeah.
I still get night sweats. By comparison, in Canada, I had used public transport in my entire life maybe 4 times, and it was only ever to take the train to Toronto for like an event or a concert. Every
Gotcha.
other time I was walking or I was driving. Canada is a driving country. If you don't have a car, if you don't have a license, it's
Oof.
extremely isolating. It's a big country, and like there's no way, even for me, in high school working at a part-time job, I couldn't take the bus to work. So I had to have someone drive me, or I had to drive myself. There was a period when I would ride my bike to my job, and that was very short-lived. But there's no way that you can adequately use public transport unless you live in a big city. But
I
for
feel
most
that.
Canadians living in a town or a village, like, you have to drive. What's the deal with the NHS, especially
I feel like I've never taken public transport in my life. I mean, I took the school bus if that counts when I went to school. Other than that, I've never taken public transport, so I don't really know too much about the topic. Having to have perfect change would absolutely be annoying every single time. So going cashless definitely, I'm sure, made things a lot more convenient, a lot more easy for so many people. And I mean, that's just the way of the world these days. But yeah, like I said, I don't know much about public transport, so I'll go to the next one.
compared to Canada's healthcare.
Mm.
So I'm not going to pretend to know all the intricacies of both healthcare systems because thankfully I haven't had to use them much. Knock on wood. From my understanding, they are very similar in that they are free at the point of use. So
Hmm.
when I go to the doctor here in England, I'm registered with a local GP. I don't have to pay to go see my doctor. I don't have to pay for an
That's
appointment.
so nice.
And the same is
So
true in
nice.
Canada. If something
So
happens and I have to
nice.
call an ambulance, I'm not having to pay for that ambulance in England or in Canada. It's America that's the real different one. That's the like pay per use kind of situation. But Canada, like humor, you got the UK, you've got America. Canada is kind of in the middle, but more similar to the UK system. And the fun fact, being a foreigner, maybe British people don't know, but as a foreigner, every time you apply for a UK visa or you renew your current visa, you have to pay the NHS surcharge. So it is a lump sum of money that goes towards the NHS every single time. Every time renew visa, you pay the NHS surcharge, but you're also going to pay taxes, of course. So I pay taxes through working and whatever. For my 10-year anniversary, I was hoping to add up all of my visa costs and my NHS surcharges because, yeah, well over 10,000 plus, I gotta say. It's a hefty price every single time. How fun! Is it expensive to live in the UK compared?
Yeah, I guess again, I wouldn't know too much about healthcare considering I'm a American healthcare where we don't get the free ambulance or the free getting to see your doctor where it's pay for every tiny little thing they are going to charge you an exorbitant amount for. So I live in the land where healthcare is a privilege and not a right, like in the UK and in Canada.
To Canada, I feel a little bit out of the loop when it comes to Canadian costs because The last time I lived in Canada, I was 22 living at
Oh,
home. And things are very different now than they were back then. But I think both countries, we're not immune to a cost of living crisis. Things are expensive, and that sucks. The same loophole in both countries exists. If you live in a less than desirable place, it will be cheaper than a more desirable place. That is a concept that exists
I feel
everywhere.
that.
My problem and the situation I've put myself into is where I live in Kent. London is pricing people out. People can't afford to live in London anymore, so they're coming outwards, and many are coming into Kent, which is making Kent more expensive. But the same thing is happening back home where I live outside of Toronto, or I'm from outside of Toronto, and where Toronto is getting more and more expensive and it's pricing people out, they're coming further and further out, and so they're making like my hometown and where I'm from more and more expensive. And so you're sort of pushing everybody out, and then the rest of us are having to go like more rural and like further and further away so you can afford it. So that
Yeah,
sucks. And there's
absolutely.
no end in sight. How easy is it to
There's not. I swear here in the US, when I was in college, and we're talking probably 8, 9 years ago, me and my bro shared a 2 bedroom, one bath, and I think we were paying about $675 a month. I don't know. I haven't been back in this long to those apartments that I live, but I'm willing to bet money that that same apartment today costs at least $1,100. At least 1,100. So 675 within 8, 9 years. We're talking about a $500 jump in rent, bro. Like that's the way this economy is going. Like it's insane.
make friends and integrate into British society? Integrate, yes, easy. And I think all foreigners, here's my hot take. I don't know if this is a hot take. I think if you move to a country, you are a foreigner in that country, it is your job to assimilate to that country. Now, does that mean strip
I
away
agree.
everything that you are
I
to
agree.
become a new person?
No.
No. I am still Canadian, still sound Canadian. I still do things largely in a Canadian way, but I work really hard to assimilate into my community. I want to be a positive part in this place. And I don't expect the UK to change to suit me. I need to
Agreed.
change to suit the UK. That's just my personal opinion. So I think integrating is absolutely vital. And it also, I think, helps you. Like if you resist, like, oh, I hate how British people do
Yeah.
that. And like you resisting, I think you just will never feel at home. Now,
Yeah.
how easy is it to make friends?
Ah.
It's not great, but I also think that's a me problem. Ever since lockdown, I've worked from home.
Mhm.
I don't see people. I see this. I see you.
Yeah.
This camera,
Yeah.
my computer,
Yep.
this house. So
Yep.
ever since lockdown, it's been tough, and the opportunity to meet people has become smaller and smaller. But that's like I think culturally it's probably happening to a lot of people, but it's also kind of a me problem. I think you really have to put yourself out there and push yourself to be out there. No one's gonna find you in your house. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, definitely in the last like 5 years, meeting people, difficult. So you really have to try. I think at least.
I feel
Maybe
like I definitely agree with her in the assimilation. If you're moving to a new country, you're moving there. I understand you are moving. It is your job to assimilate to the values and everything of that country. It is not the country's job to assimilate and to cater to you. Like she said, does that mean getting rid of everything you hold, like all the values you already have and everything you hold dear to you, like and everything that makes you you? No, no, nobody said you got to do that. But it is your job to if you're gonna move to the UK, assimilate to the UK. If not, why go there?
if you're like super extroverted, you don't have to try. I don't know that life. Any tips for understanding the British accent and local slang? So we know the British accent doesn't exist. Okay. I think we all know that. But we all understand the question. My answer would be it takes time. The longer you are here, the less you will hear. And that is a really weird experience, and you won't notice it at first until maybe somebody points it out. So for me, I don't hear accents anymore. My partner, to me, who is English, no longer has an accent. My friends, people in my community, I don't hear those accents anymore. When I first moved here, it kind of felt like I was in a movie because everybody sounded really strange, and I felt so like alienated because it's like all of these people sound weird. And now 9 years later, I don't hear them anymore, and I don't know when that happens, but it happens.
Crazy.
It's only when I hear a voice that I don't hear in my day-to-day life that it stands out. So my partner and I were out for a walk, and we were walking through a park, and this woman was speaking to her kids, and she had like a northern accent. I don't know where it was, but it was not something that I heard, so it like stood out. I don't hear that voice on the day-to-day, is what I mean. Does that make sense?
It does.
Or I went to the post office and I was dropping stuff off, and the guy at the counter had like a Scottish accent. Again, broadly speaking, Scottish accent. I don't know exactly where, but I don't hear it on the day-to-day, and so it stood out. But the longer you are here, the less you will hear. And yeah, it's weird. How do you navigate the local driving
I get
rules?
it. Because her ears are assimilating to the way that people talk in the UK. So these accents in the beginning, probably strong accents. Now they're just like they're not accents to her anymore. They're just normal. Like the longer you're here, the less you hear. I mean, it makes sense. It does make sense. So I get that. I get that. Let's see what we got.
Especially driving on the left.
Mm.
Driving here made me want to puke. And that is not an exaggeration. The first time I went out to practice driving here in England, I scratched a BMW and I sobbed at the side of the road. That's a true story. The best thing I can recommend is as a Canadian with a full license, I was able to exchange my license for a automatic British driving license, which means I can drive automatics in the UK right away, which kind of seems insane to me, but that is the rules technically, unless they change by the time I post this video. But the idea of just immediately getting in the car and just driving to work, I could not fathom. So what I did, and I would 100% recommend, and I'm gonna do it again. I don't have a car, I sold it. When I get a new car, I'm gonna do this, and it is refresher lessons. So I booked a guy, I wanna say I did maybe one session that was like 2 hours, called refresher lessons. So it's like you have a license, but you don't have the confidence, or you've maybe not driven here in a long time, like whatever. And I went out with this guy, and that was the first time like driving on the left and roundabouts and the speed and the rules and all that stuff. And it was wonderful. So if you are going to drive here, if you have a full license and you can exchange it, great. I would do that because then you don't have to do all the lessons and paying all that stuff. But definitely check out refresher lessons. It was wonderful. My guy was fabulous. I felt so much more confident. And then once you start driving, like you'll figure it out. But driving on the left is weird. There was one time I accidentally drove on the right side of the road, but we don't talk about that. How does the tipping?
I feel like it would definitely be an adjustment driving on the left. I think what I would struggle with more is the roundabouts. Because I would be such a nervous wreck, like at a roundabout, like, can I go? Is it my turn? And yeah, that would be the thing for me.
Culture in the UK differ from that in Canada. Largely speaking, in Canada, you tip for like every service. Hairdressers,
really? In Canada too?
Bars, all of that is expected. You're expected to tip. That is part of the culture. Here in the UK, it's kind of the opposite. Some restaurants, like I went out to dinner, and it was one of those places where I was paying by card, and so they just like plug in the number, they point the machine at you, you tap. Yeah. There's no prompt to add a tip or anything. You just tap and you're like, okay, bye, have a great day. And you're just like, you don't even get the option. That's not the case for all places. Some places will be like, would you like to add a 10%, 15%, 20% tip? Okay, great. But in Canada, like if you don't tip, it's really, really rude. Where here, I think the understanding is like, if you've had great service, if you've really enjoyed your time, tip, great. But if you don't tip, like, you're not gonna get attacked in the parking lot. Not that you get attacked in Canada either, but you know what I mean. Usually
I
when I talk
feel
about
you.
tipping, British people are like, yeah, it's because we pay our workers a living wage. I don't know how true that is anymore. I don't know how much Canadians are getting paid comparatively, but the culture of it is that in Canada, you absolutely tip. Don't forget to check out YFood, link in the description, Alana-YouTube. You're gonna get 10% off. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you have fun. Hope you're having a nice spring, I think, technically. If you would like to watch something else, how about this one? I tried cooking
Oh,
wartime recipes and it went about as well as you'd expect. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye!
yeah, I feel like I hate tipping with a passion. I hate it with a passion because I'm already overpaying for the food because I'm at a restaurant. But now you want me to tip 15, 20, sometimes 25% too. And as bad as Canada is, you know that America's worse, which is crazy. And so I hate sitting down and eating. I completely agree. These companies, these restaurants need to pay these workers more. Y'all need to pay them more. Y'all need to pay them livable wages and stop depending on customers to do so. That's all we got. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Check out the next. I'll see y'all next.